You want to stay? Do you want to stay? Do you want to stay? You don't have to stay. I'm going to be talking about uterus and fibroids and, fallopian tubes and a cervix. You let me do my thing? All right. I appreciate you. I love you more. Hey, hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Leanne. And for those of you who are new here, welcome, welcome. And to my oldies but goodies, I appreciate you for rocking with your girl. You've been here a long time. Now, I know with my videos, I talk a lot about ministry things, and then I've done some pregnancy vlogs, but this time around, I wanted to do something just a little bit different and share my story and experience with what I am going through health-wise. So, as some of you may know, back in the day, some years back, I did have uterine fibroids. I had a high-risk pregnancy, so that's why I did record the pregnancy with my first baby. With the second one, I think I recorded just a little bit, but it wasn't a lot because I was on bed rest with both. And I should have done the myomectomy journey as well, but I did not. But we're here, okay? And what we're gonna do is talk about the journey that I'm on now, which is 2 days away. What is today? Today is Tuesday, March 12th. And I have a total hysterectomy scheduled on Thursday, March 14th. So we're just a couple of days away from being uterus free. And how do I feel about being uterus free? Well, let's do this. Let's talk first about why we are here. Okay, let's talk about why we're here. What got me to the place of, 41 years old and hysterectomy? What got me to this place? So I have been struggling with uterine fibroids for about, oh my gosh, 15 years. Going on 15 years, I've been struggling with uterine fibroids. I found out I had uterine fibroids when I was pregnant with my oldest, which is Aiden. And some of the videos are still here, so you can go back and look. Aiden is 14 now. So you can go back and look at the videos, see how big I was. I had 3 really big fibroids at the time, and they couldn't see, how many I had until they actually went in to remove that, but I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So found out back in 2009 that I had uterine fibroids. Okay, and the pregnancy hormone makes the uterine fibroids grow like wildfire, all right? So after I had my son, I was told while I was pregnant that I may not be able to have a vaginal birth because the fibroids were so large, and I was placed on bed rest as well. So Aiden was due in February of 2010. February 3rd is when he was born, 2010. And I went in labor on Labor Day. So going in labor on Labor Day was not a good thing, okay? I started contracting. Contractions were like, they went from I think 30 minutes apart to, 15 minutes apart to 5 minutes apart. So they was tearing me up, okay, back to back to back to back to back. And I remember I was at my parents' house, and so we had to drive back to, the city, to the hospital, which was about 45 minutes away, to see what was going on, right? So I was placed on bed rest, okay? Could not get off bed rest. At least I was at home. I was not in the hospital, so thank God. So I did have a few hospital stays, hospital scares. So they placed me on bed rest with my oldest. And, they told me, hey, you're basically threatening miscarriage. When I first found out that I was pregnant with Aiden, I started to grow at a very, very rapid rate, okay? At a very, very rapid rate. And the doctor that I had then, she was like, if I were you, I wouldn't even get excited about your pregnancy. It'll probably just abort itself because you have uterine fibroids, and just left it like that. So I was upset, of course. And I left because she did a pap on me, and I bled like for 2 days straight. And I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So after hearing that news that I shouldn't get excited about the pregnancy, that it will probably abort itself, I decided to find me a doctor that would believe what I was believing. Okay. I prayed and I was like, Lord, send me, to a doctor, send me somewhere, where somebody is going to care, they're going to be tender, they're going to understand, they're going to have a great bedside manner. So at the time I went back to work, boohoo crying. One of the girls came in and she was like, well, what's wrong? What's going on? And I told her what happened. And she was like, oh, girl, just go to my doctor. And I was so big on not wanting to go to male doctors because it just was strange to me. I don't know. My first GYN was a male, and it was just, no, I just didn't want to do it. So she was like, oh, girl, just go to my doctor. My doctor is Dr. Roosevelt. And then, yeah. So I went to her doctor, made an appointment. And from day one, we clicked. We were like this from day one. And he walked me through the whole process. And he did tell me, he said, now, this was the very first appointment. He said, now I have to let you know, he said, you are in a dilemma. And it's like you're in a boat, and your boat is in the middle of the ocean, and your boat has a leak. He said, so at this point, what we could do, we could and remove the fibroids. He said, I have to give you the medical option. Then you can get pregnant again. He said, or we can go on and we can pray and we can see what the end gonna be. I said, we're gonna go on and see what the end gonna be. Okay? We're gonna see what the end gonna be. And also, let me note this, same doctor that told me in the same sentence or whatever, when she said, oh, your pregnancy will just abort itself, I wouldn't even get excited. And if you do have him, he'll probably be, he'll have some mental issues. He'll probably be retarded, is what she said. And I was like, and my mama hollered out, she said, the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. No, we're gonna find somewhere else to go. And we did that. Okay, so fast forward, pregnancy is progressing, and I go in labor on Labor Day, okay? Aiden is due in February. And I get placed on bed rest. Couldn't lift much, couldn't vacuum. I couldn't do like none of anything, like much of anything. I couldn't do much of anything. Still did stuff that I was not supposed to be doing. Couldn't travel more than 50 miles. Was not supposed to vacuum. Was not supposed to be lifting anything and blah, 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 blah. I did all of those things because I was just so used to just doing stuff. Understand what I'm saying? When you're an independent woman and you're used to doing things, getting it done on your own and not having to wait on somebody, it's hard for you to just kind of sit back and relax and just, relish in knowing that somebody actually has your back, that somebody actually cares, Fast forward, Aiden was due in February. I had many, many, many hospital visits, contractions hitting back to back. They put me on breathing is what it was called. It was medicine that I had to take every day that would just calm my uterus down because of the fibroids. And so my doctor at that time told me, hey, listen, you have so many fibroids, they are massive. And so what happens is the baby is competing for, the nutrition in the blood, and the fibroids are too. So this is why my stomach was kind of whopped. It was, as my grandmama would say, it was ill-formed. My stomach was shaped kind of weird because I had one big fibroid that sat on the front of my stomach. And so I had Aiden, delivered him, bled like crazy. First of all, labor was hard because they had to press down on my stomach because, Aiden was in distress and they were trying not to go into having a C-section, an emergency C-section. I had Aiden, and after I had him in February on the 3rd, I bled from February all the way to October, okay? I got the depot shot. They put me on the depot shot to stop me from bleeding. That may have stopped me from bleeding for maybe like a week or something like that. Maybe like a week, it may have stopped me from bleeding. And then I had breakthrough bleeding again, okay? And it did not stop until October of 2010. I bled just that long. So I have been dealing with this whole fibroid issue for the longest. So after I had him, the fibroids, they kind of stopped bothering me. They kind of went down just a tad bit, as the pregnancy hormone was leaving my body, but not a lot. I still had the heavy cycles, still had the bad cramps and all of this and that. So fast forward, I get pregnant again, and it was recommended that I get the fibroids removed before I got pregnant again. Well, I got pregnant again with Austin, with my youngest, and that pregnancy, I had to go on bed rest with that one as well. I don't know what it was about the holidays. I'm just not thinking about that. That just hit me. I went in labor on Labor Day with Aiden, and on St. Patrick's Day, I started to contract and went in labor on St. Patrick's Day with Austin. I just realized that it was a holiday with the both of them. And I was placed on bed rest again, and I could not do much of anything. Now, I was humongous with Aiden, but I was massive with Austin, okay? Now, Austin, he just kind of like pushed the fibroids out of the way. When I had Aiden had like a little tiny whop in his head from where the fibroid had been sitting. But if you got a country grandmama like I had, okay? If you from the country, you mold that baby's head. So we would rub his head and rub his head and mold his head and mold his head and mold his head. And ain't nothing wrong with his head, honey. You can't even tell where the fibroid was sitting. He ain't got no whops in his head now. Yeah, St. Patrick's Day of 2013, I went on bed rest with Austin, okay? Because, you know, second babies, they're normally a little bit bigger and you carry them differently. I was bigger, and Austin just kind of moved the fibroids out of the way. So we planned to have a vaginal birth, okay? Went in, and I was induced with Aiden. I don't think I said that, but with Aiden, I was induced. And with Austin, I was induced with him as well. So we went in, you know, to have the baby, and I was in labor for like 27 hours. My blood pressure began to bottom out. Austin's heart rate began to bottom out as well. His heart rate went from 140 beats per minute to like 10. So they came rushing in, trying to check me to see like, what's going on? The fibroid had took my cervix, pulled it and flipped it. They could not find my cervix at all because of the way the fibroid had positioned itself in my uterus. So I had to have an emergency C-section, okay? So went in, had the emergency C-section, and if you know anything about, you know, being in distress when you're in labor, whatever side the baby tolerates the most, they're gonna put the oxygen on you and you have to stay on that side. Well, it was my right side I had to lay on because that was the side that Austin tolerated the most. And it's like all of the medicine shifted to one side of my body. So when I went in for the C-section, when they cut me, I felt everything on my left side. But I begged them to not put me to sleep. I just kind of pushed through it because I wanted to make sure that my baby was okay. So as you know, they were cutting me, and I said, I can feel it. And they were like, oh, she can't feel that, she can't feel that. My doctor was like, if she says she can feel it, she can feel it. So they tried to give me, I guess, like a local anesthetic is what they tried to do. So that helped ease it just a little bit, but I felt them cutting me. Okay, it wasn't like, of course, like you're cutting me now, like here, but I felt them cutting me. Yes, Austin's fine. Thank you, Jesus, great. Showed him to me that baby was almost 8 pounds and nothing was wrong with him or his brother, right? So after that, you know, I had a very, very hard time because those fibroids were so big. And they had to manipulate my uterus, you know, the fibroids, to push them back inside because you can't cut fibroids off when you've had a C-section because you'll bleed out. So I struggled big time. I was in so much pain. I remember having a morphine pump. It was a terrible experience. It really, really was. So I do remember grabbing the nurse's hand. I was like, ma'am, I'm in so much pain. And that nurse, I had a bad experience. She snatched away from me and she was like, don't grab me like that. You know, you press your button. And you know, that morphine only releases a certain amount, you know, during a certain amount of time. You know, it ain't like, oh, you hit it however many times you want to hit it because you've been OD'd. That's not how that works. So the morphine, it took the edge off for maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, right? If that. So I ended up getting in a room. Of course, Austin had to go to the ECN, which is the extended care nursery. He wasn't in the NICU, but he was in the ECN because he had some fluid that he had aspirated that was in his lungs. So while I am in the room recovering, he's in the ECN. I'm in horrible pain. I mean, vomiting like crazy. I fell out of the hospital bed, you know, super, super constipated because of all of the pain meds they had given me. It was a lot, okay? Got home, they finally discharged us because at first I thought, they told me that I was gonna have to go home without him, but they did let us go home together. I stayed an extra day and we did go home together. Now, when we got home, that's when all hell broke loose. You're not supposed to leave the hospital until you have a bowel movement. I could not have one. I have IBS anyway, okay? So a bowel movement did not happen when I was in the hospital when I had Austin. When I had Aiden, I had a BM with no problem. But because it was so many pain meds they had given me, I was backed up. It was horrible, horrible. I had gas pains. I'm talking about I was constipated. It was terrible, 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 terrible. Okay, terrible. It was terrible. So got home, took Gas X, Docalax, I took Phazime. I'm talking about Tums, Rolaids, everything that I could think of, baking soda and water that would help pass that gas, you know, so I could use the bathroom. Nothing was working. Nothing was working. You know it's bad when a laxative is not working. After I got over the period of being constipated and I finally was able to, you know, use the restroom, then I had other issues, okay? Of course, my stomach was still really big. I do remember my eyes swelling. Like I had a lot of swelling in my face. I remember my doctor saying to me, you have those fibroids and they have got to come out, but we can't take them out right now. I had to wait. It was like a year when I had the myomectomy. So my eyes would swell, my face was swelling. And then I began to have digestive issues. And when I got ready to use the bathroom, this may be TMI, but if you're all here listening, then it is what it is. You're just gonna subject yourself to the talk, okay? So my poop began to come out flat because the fibroids were so big, they were laying on my intestines and they were mashing my poop. So just think of a hot dog and you're just shaving off both sides of the hot dog. That's what my poop looked like. Like it was coming through one of those Play-Doh strainers. It was pretty bad, pretty bad. Fast forward, okay? Heavy cycles, bad cramps. I'm talking about so many issues with these fibroids. Issue after issue after issue after issue, sharp pains in my rectum, pain, 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 and more pain during sex. It was horrible, okay? So fast forward a year later, all right, I had the surgery in September of 2014. So first what they did, I had a laparoscopic procedure where they went into my belly button to see where the fibroids were. And they cut away a lot of scar tissue because I had this pain around my belly button area. When I would be washing dishes, if my belly button just touched the counter, the pain would be so terrible, it would knock me to my knees. But come to find out, it was scar tissue. And that pain wasn't there until it was around about cycle time. So I had a lot of scar tissue, a lot of scarring. So they went in through my belly button, they cut away a lot of the scar tissue. And that's when I found out that the fibroids were what they call through in and through out, okay? The fibroids were inside of my uterus, within the walls and muscles of my uterus, and on the outside of my uterus. It was horrible. I was riddled with fibroids. Okay, so I can't remember how long it was after I had the laparoscopic procedure done that I actually had the myomectomy. I can't remember. But because the fibroids were so large, we could not do like the, what is it called, embolization or something like that. We couldn't do that because the fibroids were too big. So I had to be cut again, like I was having a C-section, to have the fibroids removed. They cut me, fibroids are out. I remember waking up from the surgery and I just felt, my stomach was flat and I just felt empty. You know, and I didn't realize how much weight I had been carrying with those fibroids until they were out. So I had 3 really big ones that were about the size of, and I wish I still had the pictures. I don't know what happened to those pictures, but I can insert pictures here and show you what my stomach looked like when I went in to have the surgery to remove the fibroids, and 24 hours after what my stomach looked like. Okay, because it was a major difference, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I had 3 really large fibroids about the size of large grapefruit, and then I had several hundred, not 700, but several hundred small fibroids. Okay, now I do remember my doctor saying to me, you know, and he was old school. He was the first Black OBGYN in Montgomery, Alabama, okay? Shout out to Dr. Roosevelt McCorvey. Was an impeccable doctor for me. Great bedside manner, had no issues with Dr. McCorvey, okay? So he told me, he was like, darling, because that's how he talked to you. He said, darling, he said, I'm just letting you know. He said, sometimes, you know, with the fibroids that you got, he said, first of all, it's a miracle that you even got pregnant. He said, it's just a blessing from the Lord. Your babies were supposed to be here. It's a miracle that you got pregnant. He said, but with the fibroids that you have, a lot of times when we go in to remove them, he said, your uterus is just butchered. It's just butchered. And he said, and sometimes you end up having to have a hysterectomy. And I was like, no, I don't want to have a hysterectomy. You know, because I mean, I was going through a divorce at the time and I was still young. You know, I was in my 30s. That was 10 years ago. So I was like early 30s, you know? And I was like, you know, I might want to have, you know, more children, you know, you never know. And he was like, okay. He said, well, I'll do all I can. I said, do whatever you can to save my plumbing. I want my plumbing, right? Child, I should have just, anywho. But he said, I told him, I said, do all you can to save the plumbing. And he said, okay, I'll do that. So had the surgery, woke up from the surgery. I mean, the recovery, it was like having the C-section. Yes, it was. I had to really take my time and I did too much and my incision started to kind of come open and my mom was like, go somewhere and sit yourself down. And I did. I had to sit myself down. So during the healing process, it wasn't a whole lot of bleeding that I remember. I didn't have a whole lot of bleeding. But once I actually healed, I mean, my back wasn't bothering me because I had the weight. You just don't realize like the weight of those fibers. My poop started to look normal again. I didn't have the pressure that I had to like use the bathroom all the time and it wasn't a lot of urine there. It was amazing. It really was. After I had that myomectomy and had those fibroids removed. Before the fibroids, my cycle has always been like clockwork. Every 30 days on the day, you know, I would have a cycle. So I went from bleeding for like 5 to 7 days. I'm talking about heavy bleeding from 5 to 7 days to bleeding. Just say my cycle started on a Monday. By Thursday, I was done. There was nothing. Barely had any cramps, barely heavy bleeding. It was just very light. Like I didn't have to wear like really, really thick pads. And I didn't have to do super tampons anymore. It was just a breeze. Everything was different. It was just different, right? Well, child, nothing lasts forever. 10 years later, it'll be 10 years in September, 10 years later, and a miscarriage that I had in 2019. So 5 years after I had the myomectomy, I was remarried and got pregnant, miscarried. So here we are, 5 years after the miscarriage. As a matter of fact, it'll be 5 years this August. Well, that'll do it. Child, I don't know where the rest of this footage just went, but basically I was saying this coming up August will be 5 years post miscarriage, and here I am having a total hysterectomy. Not sad about it at all, but I knew it's something that I needed to do for myself. I didn't want any more children, like I said in my last video. So, you know, here it is, almost 3 months post hysterectomy, and I can say that it is the best decision that I could have made for myself. So, what happens to the last part of this video, child? I don't know, honey, but who finna go re-record that? Huh? Who finna go chop this video up again? Not me. Not me. But anywho, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for rocking with your girl. Thank you for subscribing and for commenting for those of you who do, and even the ones that goes watch. I appreciate you. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, which will be surgery vlog. Bye.